Let's take an interesting problem. So you're given an array of 10 integers and you're asked to write a C program such that the zeros are pushed to the right-hand side of the array and the non-zero numbers are pushed to the left-hand side of the array. So for example, if you take this array containing random numbers, so if you have a zero or if you have zeros, all these zeros should be pushed to the end of the array and all the non-zero elements are at the beginning of the array. Now, if you notice here, the relative positions of the non-zero elements do not change. So for example, the first non-zero element is 3, the second is 10, and then -4 and so on. And in the final array, your non-zero elements are in the same order. So it's 3, 10, -4, 5, and so on. And you're not allowed to use additional arrays in your program. So how do we deal with this problem? So let's create the array. I can say int list of 10 equals, let me put in the same array. Control V. Now I'm going to create two variables, I and j, which I'm going to use to index into the array. And then I'm going to have another variable called last, which I'm going to initialize it to the last element in the array, or the index 9 in this case. So currently, last is last is 9, which means that I'm going to make it point to the last element in the array. So here's my technique. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as I find that my element is 0, I'm going to push all the remaining elements to the left. And then I'm going to insert the 0 at the last position. So let's see how I'm going to do it. So for I equals to 0, I less than or equals to last, I plus plus. Okay, if the current element given by list of I is equals to a 0, then I need to push all of these to the left. So every element from I plus 1 to the last element has to be pushed to the left. Then I'm going to say for j equals to I, j less than or equals to last minus 1. So last minus 1 is basically this element. This is just for the first iteration of the array, okay? And j plus plus. So everything from I plus 1 goes to the left. So the ith element will be I plus 1, right? So I can say list of j equals list of j plus 1. Remember, j is starting with I, so list of I equals to list of I plus 1. So everything moves to the left. And even though last minus 1 is pointing to this 0 here, we are doing j plus 1, so which is basically, again, if j takes the last value, last plus 1, last minus 1 plus 1 goes to last, so we are able to access this element. So everything over here gets pushed to here. Okay? And then I'm going to say the last element will be a 0. Right? So at the end of this loop, for the first iteration, the array contents would be all these elements, Control C, Control V. And then with this line of code, this element is now going to be a 0. That is what happens. And remember, last is still 9, so it is pointing to this element here. And then I'm going to say last minus minus. The reason I'm doing last minus minus is because so basically I'm decrementing the last to be now pointing to this one here. The reason I'm doing that is because I don't need to shift this zero again to the left. This zero is in its right place. I only need to worry about these elements now. Now, since everything is shifted to the left, right? So everything of this was shifted to the left. And then we say I plus plus, right? But when you do I plus plus, your I becomes 2 or your I becomes 1. So you're accessing this element. This element is no longer being accessed. Now, that is not correct. So what we need to do is we need to say I minus minus. So you have an I minus minus. So initially it was 0. And then we make it minus 1. And then we make it plus 1 again. So that's it. And then I can say printf array contents are for I equals to 0, I less than or equals to 9, I plus plus, printf percentile d list of I. So that's it. Let's run this program. So our initial array was 0, 3, 10, 0, minus 4, minus 5, 0, 7, 0, 8. As you can see, the order of the non-zero elements is preserved and the zeros are pushed to the right side of the array. So when you're given a problem like this, first you have to come up with a strategy as to how you will tackle the problem. Like, for example, here I told you that whenever I find a 0, I'm going to move all these elements to the left and put the last element as 0. And then I decrement last as well, so that I can just worry about this part of the array. So thinking about the strategy is one thing, and then implementation is another thing. So these are the two things that you need to master.